Hey guys, welcome to the video on chapter 8, section number 1. Now, I have 3 goals for you guys in this video. First off, I want you guys to be able to summarize the 2 laws of thermodynamics. Secondly, I want you guys to be able to compare and contrast autotrophs and heterotrophs. And finally, I want you guys to be able to describe how ATP works inside of a cell. So, first thing, guys, thermodynamics, what is it? Basically, first off, in order to understand thermodynamics, you have to understand something called energy. You've probably heard this word before, but you probably didn't actually know it had some kind of a definition. Energy is just the ability to do work. So, like moving from one side of the classroom to the other requires energy. Picking up something requires energy. Digesting your food requires energy. So all these things are energy, and the whole focus of this entire chapter is on how your body gets energy. How do you get that energy that you use to survive, move around, and do what you do? Well, in order to understand that, you also have to have some knowledge of something we call thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is just the study of the flow and transformation of energy in the universe. Now, you might be confused by that, but think of it like this. Let's say you are a person, I'll put you a person right here, and you are smiling, terrible person, there we go. You're smiling and you're walking down the street. So you're walking down this way. As you are walking, you are using energy. That energy is going from you into the ground because you are using your legs to move yourself forward, and that energy is being transferred from your body into the ground as you move forward. That's thermodynamics. That's the transfer and flow of energy, because the energy is flowing from you into the ground and it's being transformed from energy in your body to energy of movement. That's really all you kind of have to know about thermodynamics as far as the basics. Now, thermodynamics has 2 laws that you have to know about, and we'll be referring to these laws throughout the lesson. The first law is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. So think of it like this. When you burn petrol in your car, you're burning the chemical energy and turning it into movement energy. Now in physics, they call this energy kinetic energy. So I'll put a K here for kinetic. But in biology, I don't really require you know that's kinetic. But understand, you are just changing chemical to movement. The same is true of your body. Whenever you do anything in your body, the same thing actually occurs. You are just changing chemical energy into some other kind of energy that your body is going to use. Whether it's going to be heat to keep you warm, whether it's going to be movement to move you around, whether it's going to be almost chemically electrical in your neurons, it's going to be changing things around. So you're not making new energy, you're just changing the energy from what it was into something new. The second thing here is that energy cannot be converted without losing some of it as heat in the process. So if I have 100, I'll put down kilojoules of energy, and I want to use that energy to move. Let's say I want to move myself, so I'm going to spend 100 kilojoules of energy to move myself. Well, that means that I'm going to be using that energy to move. Now, if you're curious, the term kilojoule is just a way of measuring energy. A kilojoule is the same thing as you might see as like a meter or a gram. It's just that the letter J is just the letter we use to represent energy. So if you see that, understand that's all you're actually saying. So if I want to use 100 kilojoules of energy, let's call this chemical because it's inside of my body, and I want to use that energy to move, so I want to change that over to movement. The thing is that the second law tells us that we're going to lose some of that energy to heat. So even if I want to take 100 kilojoules of chemical energy and turn it into 100 kilojoules of movement energy, I can't do that. I will lose some of that as heat. And if you go into chemistry and physics, you'll actually learn how to calculate this. So the reality is that I might only get, say, 90 kilojoules of movement and plus 10 kilojoules of heat. That's all this is saying, guys, is that thermodynamics states whenever you want to use energy to do something, you're going to lose some of that as heat. So, now that we have an idea of the laws of thermodynamics, let's go ahead and go into some of the ideas around autotrophs and heterotrophs. Now, an autotroph is just an organism that makes their own energy. In this case here, that'll be a plant. Plants are autotrophs. They take energy from the sun and they convert that energy into food that they use to survive. Heterotrophs are the opposite. They have to consume other animals in order to live. So a heterotroph is going to be eating these things right here. So they might eat the autotroph and get that energy that the autotroph got from the sun. And this guy here might get eaten by the bug right here, and he will get his energy from this guy right here. The thing to take away from this, guys, is this, that all the energy on Earth comes from the sun. All of it. So, at the basic level, guys, you are basically solar powered. Congratulations, you are a hippie. You are a solar-powered living organism that depends upon food, because whether you are eating lettuce or some kind of green food, or whether you're eating like a cow or some other kind of animal, the energy at the basic level all comes from the sun. So, when you get that energy, when you get that food, what is this called? Well, we call this process metabolism. Metabolism is all chemical reactions in a cell. Now, you know what a cell is. You learned about cells and how they work. Metabolism is basically taking chemicals and moving them around to bigger chemicals. So, let's say there's two types of reactions. There are catabolic reactions and anabolic reactions. A catabolic reaction is taking a large molecule and turning it into a small molecule. So let's say I have a big molecule here. These are all my molecules, and they're all connected together. And let's say I want to break those apart. So now I would say have three separate molecules. This here would be catabolic, because you're taking a big molecule and making it into a smaller molecule. Anabolic would be the opposite. So if I wanted to take these here and turn them into a big molecule, the lines here, guys, just represent bonds between molecules. This here would be considered to be anabolic. And that's the two differences here, guys. Catabolic, you take big molecules and you make them small. Anabolic, you take a big molecule and you take a small molecule, make it big. So catabolic, big to small. Anabolic, small to big. These molecules can be anything. If you eat, let's say you go to McDonald's and you eat a hamburger. Well, a hamburger is basically a collection of big molecules combined together into a hamburger patty. So we'll put this here as, this will be beef. Now your body wants to take that beef and turn that beef into energy that your body can use. So your body is going to go through a catabolic process. So, because it wants to take the big molecule, basically the molecules that make up beef, and break it down into molecules that it can use later on for energy. And later on, it's going to take that energy and go through an anabolic process and turn that beef into energy, and that energy back into you. So this would be things like fat, things like hair, things like nails. So the things your body does and grows and makes more of, this is what it is. I hope this makes sense, guys. Okay, so There are two big ideas in metabolism. There's actually hundreds of ideas in metabolism, but for this class, we are only going to be covering two of those ideas. The first one is photosynthesis. You've probably heard this word before. It's what plants do. Plants can take CO2, water, and sunlight, and they can turn it into glucose. Glucose is a type of sugar. It's also a type of carbohydrate. And that's all they do. They take carbon dioxide and water through photosynthesis, which is an autotroph. They turn it into glucose. Now, cell respiration is the opposite. It's when you take glucose and make CO2, water, and heat. So, in this case right here, the glucose combines with oxygen through a process we call cell respiration. This is what heterotrophs do, and they turn it back into CO2 and H2O. The idea to understand here, guys, is it's a cycle. Photosynthesis creates two things. It creates sugar and it creates water. Sorry, it creates oxygen. As you know, plants make oxygen. So respiration makes CO2 and H2O. So it's a big cycle. So the whole thing operates in one gigantic cycle that never ends. And that's how life on Earth works. We are in one big cycle of heterotrophs and autotrophs that work together. If all the heterotrophs on Earth were killed all at once, then the autotrophs would die because they would eventually run out of carbon dioxide and water. There wouldn't be enough. If all of the autotrophs, like plants, were killed off at once, we would eventually run out of oxygen and sugar, and we'd all die. We have to have both to survive. It's required in order to survive that we have these things. So it's important to remember, guys, too. I made it sound like only animals and humans do cell respiration. That's not actually true. Plants also undergo cell respiration. They just typically go through photosynthesis faster. Now, they might be able to balance it out later on, but at the end of the day, plants, animals both do cell respiration. Only plants and some bacteria use photosynthesis. Okay, so the big idea here, guys, ATP. ATP is the molecule that photosynthesis and cell respiration are trying to make. So when your body undergoes photosynthesis and cell respiration, it's trying to make a molecule called ATP. ATP is your body's petrol. That's all it is. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Every time phosphate is broken down, energy is released. So, take a quick look. Here is an ATP molecule. You have a molecule here, and you have three phosphates here. What happens is, when you combine ATP with water, it breaks off one of the phosphates, so this phosphate right here broke off and went by itself, and that created energy. I'll just circle it, there's no reason to spell it. That energy is your energy your body can use. So if your body wants to move, so that previous example, if your body, so you have your person again, he's happy, because he's a happy person, and he's moving. When he's moving, he is taking ATP and turning it into energy. That's all it is. Pretty simple. So that's it, guys. I've covered all the basic ideas from this chapter. Here's a quick lesson review. These are all the key terms you are going to have to know for this chapter. And I'm not going to bother going over them again because you can read them yourselves. That's it, guys. I hope this made sense. Thank you for sticking through the whole part of the video, and I will see you guys later.